Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Devil's Advocate podcast. We're all obviously giddy with last night's sensational victory. Whether you're a United fan or a Wolves fan or just a fan in general of football, I think it delivered on all counts. So we'll talk a little bit about last night's match. We'll talk about a little bit about certain players. And then, of course, we'll look at the preview for West Ham. So we'll look around about a 45-minute show. I've got two great guests with me. I've got Darragh and I've got the returning Jamie. So thank you both for joining me. Darragh, how you doing, mate? What was your thoughts on last night's epic win?
Do you really want to say it was epic? Because it would have been epic if we killed it within the starting half an hour, which we should have done. Overall, once again, Man United proving my mental health and blood pressure are not safe anymore. Ever will be. But no, look, like I don't think we all expect. I know. I look at the games we've gone to play against Wolves at Mainoos. I never expect a high-scoring game, let alone what we got last night in a 4-3 thriller. But for us to score within the first few minutes, and we'll talk about it more probably at length, but Marcus Rashford to get the first name on the score sheet was very surprising, to say the least. I think I was more surprised, because as even the commentator said, it was written in the script. I think I'm more surprised as how quickly the goals came in, because we were 2-0 up, was it 25 minutes in?
Yeah.
So like that just says that you can make the effort to actually score goals for what we've been a low-scoring team so far this year. But look, it's 3 points. We can dive in a bit more detail as the podcast goes on. But overall, I was very happy we finally got over the line, despite the circumstances last night.
Yeah, definitely. Jamie, welcome back. It's been a while, old friend, and you're looking rather good and sporting the retro, which is now a retro top there. Looking rather good there, mate. Looking rather good.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I've been keeping all right, mate. I've been a little bit ghost on the United scene, but still been in dialogue with Keane. So like you said, roped me into coming back on when I was in ghost mode. But all good, man. It's really nice. In all seriousness, it's nice to be back. It's nice to feel a little bit more positive, like going forward with United. I hit a bit of a brick wall with it. Like that's why I took a bit of a break from it all. It was just all doom and gloom. Like no one knew when the takeover was happening and stuff like that. So there's a bit of optimism in the fan base now, which is quite nice. And I think just touching on what Darragh said, nice to meet you as well, Darragh. I've never met you before, buddy. It's nice to do a show with you. I had the same outlook, like when it was like the Thursday night game, Molineux away. I was just like, oh, this has just got a 0-0 written all over it. It's just such a tough ground to go for United in the past couple of seasons, and the games have been a bore fest. And then I was actually, funnily enough, cooking some food before when the game started, and I was in the kitchen when Rashford scored, and I couldn't believe it. Like I heard a cheer, and I thought, oh, don't tell me Wolves have scored. And then I went into the living room, ran into the living room, and seen we were 1-0 up, and I was like, oh, brilliant, man. But yeah, it was a thriller, but that's like you say, it wasn't what I anticipated at all. Good to get the win, but I was just really disappointed it got to that point. Like, it's great to get a last minute winner. There's probably no better buzz in football, let's be honest. But yeah, it's just difficult when you're in such control and you're playing so well, considering the level of performances in the past few months have been well below par. I think that's safe to say. I think it's fair to say, sorry, I mean. And then to go and perform like that, but just not put our chances away. It's just typical Man United. We've been the same all season. Arguably, we've probably been the same under Ten Hag, to be honest with you. We've created good chances in games, particularly last season, and didn't put them to bed. But we got away with them results last season because we were defensively so strong and didn't have the injury record we've had this season. So that was the disappointing thing for me. I think we could have scored 5 or 6 goals like last night, but we ended up clawing a 4-3 win, and it was great. I mean, the whole street probably heard me when Mainoos scored, but yeah, not a great feeling at the end. But I think when you dissect the thrill of winning and that feeling of that last minute winner. I think when you dissect it a bit, it's a bit worrying that you don't kill off a game like that, and then you obviously get punished. The penalty is the penalty. I mean, we'll probably discuss it at some point, so I won't go into it now. But that gets them back in the game, and they're at home. They've got their tails up, and you just couldn't help but sit on the couch thinking, we're 3-2 here, and this game could be 6-1. So it's a bit frustrating from a United standpoint, but we all know the issues, man. We speak about them every week on shows like this. We ain't got a clinical goal scorer, but again, props to him. Rashford answered the critics, to be fair to him, and I'm one of them with him. And Højlund got another goal, so you do need to take the positives from the game, but yeah, defensively, you need to be better, man.
No, 100%. Look, you brought me into a nice bit of a segue, because as Rashford's finish was excellent, what a piece of centre-forward play by our man Højlund. Now, ever since we've had Højlund on, and Darragh's heard me a couple of times, and he knows my opinion on him. Mm-hmm. I think he's an exceptional talent, and I think there's going to be a proven goal scorer very, very soon within him. And he's just starting to show that lovely movement that I've been calling for in the 6-yard box. His awareness is better. But last night, that little drag, slightly body shift, if you noticed his slight body shift, that allowed him that space to be able to turn and then lay it off to Rashford. Rashford beautifully used the defender as a decoy perfectly. The keeper had no chance because he was never going to see it. It was absolutely brilliant to see. So I was really delighted with Højlund. I was delighted for Rashford. I thought Rashford's had his brother back with him in many respects. I think the overlap and the underlap of Luke Shaw helps Rashford with his game. He still has that inability right now, right at this point, to attack the diagonal at speed. And when you attack the diagonal at speed, i.e. the corner of the 18-yard box, what you do, you backtrack your fullback. And as soon as you backtrack the fullback, he's in your pocket. Whether you go left or right with him, he's going to have you, and you're going to go and get a penalty. So I'd like to see more of that from Rashford. But I think Jamie and Darragh, you both summed it up right. What were we expecting? I thought we might scrape a 2-1, if I'm honest. And I thought one of those would be a spot kick. And I thought we might scrape a 2-1. At 25 minutes, you're wondering how the hell we aren't 4 up, because these are clear-cut clinical chances. I thought Højlund took his goal brilliantly well. Strength to get across his defender and steer it home. Perfect. So we're seeing this kind of bullish player we haven't had since, I would say, Van Nistelrooy. A lot of people say he wasn't bullish.
And a lot of people do compare him there.
Yeah, he was a nasty bastard, Van Nistelrooy was, when he sniffed a goal, that was it. Bang. I'm having it. I don't care. All 3 of you in the net. That's what we've been crying out for from Holland. So I was absolutely love to see that side. So, Darragh, let's have a little bit of a chat about Rashford, see what your thoughts were. He surprised me. Jamie's right. I think he surprised us all. I don't like this when commentators say, he's got a point to prove. That's just lazy commentary, in my opinion. He's a professional footballer. So what were your thoughts his strengths were last night?
Truth be told, I think I said it at the last podcast. When I was doing the preview for the Wolves game, I didn't expect him to start. I actually expected him to fall in line with how it was at Wolves the way last year, where he was disciplined, he was disciplined by being benched at that point, but obviously he wasn't in the squad for the Newport game. But I was expecting drop from the starting lineup, Brahan score the winner. That's what I expected, because I was only expecting like a 1-0 or 2-0 or 2-1, even like you said, there's 2. But honestly, it was a clean finish. Like, I'm not going to lie, you made the point there. Højlund made the moves and used his body. Like, for someone who's so tall, and he's actually, normally you associate tall strikers with being a bit slow and clunky. He's quite an agile boy, and he's only 20, so fair enough, his body will come up with him at some point. But at the same time, you look at the way he is now. For as tall as he is, he's very agile. So he's able to put his body in front of him, actually make the move, and lay it off perfectly for Rashford. Like I said, it was a clean finish. So I don't think anyone was surprised. And that was, I suppose, the only thing that surprised me was really that Rashford actually started, because when he, I suppose this all goes back to this time last year when he was disciplined for. Was he late for training last year? if I'm correct.
Something very. I think he was disciplined for something very similar, wasn't he? A similar kind of incident.
Yeah,
it's the best way to describe.
So, like, I think that's where the whole celebration then came from. If I'm correct in saying so, like, I'm not saying he's going to bring back the celebration because anytime he's scored so far this year, he hasn't used it. But times can tell. But look, nobody should be surprised with Rashford because when he is on song, he is top class. And I'm one of those I'm one of those people who speak out against him when he's not with it, because when he's not with it, absolutely get rid of him. I would actually say get rid of himself. But when he hits, we call it a purple patch all you want. When he hits the right note, you can't dispute him being in the starting lineup. And what surprised me as well in the first 10 minutes was, I don't care if it was the first 10 minutes of the game where your body is not going to be tired, but the fact he was actually tracking back within the first 10 minutes, it actually gave me a bit of a sign of like, okay, he's actually going with it now. He, as someone said to me, he obviously got a right ball kick from Ted Hag if he's going to be actually tracking back now. So, look, this could be a turning point for him. This could be a turning point from the team. Only time will tell, really.
No, I totally agree. Just before I move to you, Jamie, big thank you to Jarvis and Mark. They're from our friends channel, MEFC Realist TV. Great to have you on board. Thanks ever so much. Julio as well. Great to see you. Always a pleasure to see you, Trev, and you've made everybody smile on the panel already, mate. So keep those wonderful comments coming in. And Richard as well. Good to see you again, Richard. You've just beat me to it. I was just about to remind everybody that Devil's Advocate podcast this year are partnering up with Manchester Mind. I'm just going to put a comment on from Richard here. As we always say, don't be afraid to pick up the phone. Don't be afraid to text, call, put your arm around a mate. There are thousands and thousands and thousands, probably millions of people that are suffering in silence today with issues that affect us every day, but some affect more than others. So if you do get a chance or you're worried about somebody, just check in on them, buy them a pint, take them some food, whatever you need to do. I'll also go as far as to say, oh, what happened there? Was that you?
That was me. Sorry.
I'll also go so far to say that all panelists, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, Jamie, are available as well if you just want to reach out to us on a confidential nature. Please do not suffer in silence. Thank you for that message, Richard. Jamie, I thought Darragh was exceptional in what he said about Rashford. What are your thoughts on Marcus and his performance? And did he pull that out of the bag because of the instance, or he should be doing this on a regular basis? I just wonder what your thoughts were, pal.
Yeah, now just before I start talking about football, I love what Richard's doing, by the way. Amazing work. I don't know Richard personally, but absolutely brilliant. If I can help any way with anything, Richard, to get involved with that, buddy, reach out to me. Keen's got my phone number. I'm really, really big on mental health. I suffer with ADHD as well, so I'm totally on board with all that sort of stuff. If I can get involved in anything, that even if it's on shows and mentioning what you've just done, I think that's amazing. So Keen did tell me about that, but because I've been away for a wee while, I haven't been aware of it, but I absolutely love that sort of stuff. And fair play to you as well, Stu, for making people aware that are watching in the comments and stuff. I love that. So yeah, we're all a little bit messed up sometimes, and sometimes you just need a little bit of a chat. I've been there myself. I suffer daily with issues I could bore everyone with struggles having ADHD and stuff like that. So it's a case of it's great to hear people talking about stuff like that. So that's amazing work. So fair play to everyone involved in getting that involved with the channel as well. Anyway, but yeah, love that. Rashford, yeah, I don't really want to go in too deep on it because I think Darragh's nailed it.
Yes.
But I think I was a bit surprised that he started as well, to be honest with you. But I tried to judge Rashford. I ain't Rashford's biggest fan. I'm not going to be a hypocrite and come on here and start calling him the best thing since sliced bread because he scored another goal. I thought he was fantastic last season. I've not been convinced over the past, I don't know how many years, that he's as good as everybody thinks he is. I think we're very guilty with Rashford with putting a lot of pressure on him. He doesn't particularly look happy at the moment, as in his body language. I think he's more trying to prove a point to people than actually playing with a smile on his face, which I think is a shame. But one thing I will say, where Darragh was absolutely spot on with his analysis, but he didn't necessarily mention the link up with having Luke Shaw behind him. I think that made a massive difference. They link up really well. They understand each other's games. You can see Rashford's patience when he knows Shaw's coming past him to just lay that into him at the right time. And we got Højlund's goal off of that move. But the finish, fantastic. I don't think anybody questions Rashford's footballing ability when he's on his game. The big issues for me is his lifestyle off the pitch, and the little stupid antics that they keep dropping in every 4 to 6 months. And more so his defensive work off the ball. And I think Darragh made that a really good point. Like, you've spoke at length with me, Stu, on different podcasts and platforms in the past. I'm big on partnerships and I'm big on work rate. You know, you can have all the talent that you want, but you need to work hard, man. You need to want to fill that gap when your teammates out of possession and out of position as well. If you lose the ball in a tight area down the field, you got to do the hard yards sometimes, you know. I understand, like, we're not all multi-millionaires that play for Manchester United with that massive pressure on us. And people say, so where's the motivation when you've made it, so to speak? But I don't know. I always say you got to look in the mirror sometimes, man, and be honest with yourself. And I think if Rashford does that, he can rebuild. You know, he's got a lot of talent. We all know that he can potentially be a brilliant player. I don't think Rashford's world class. I'm not scared to say that either. I never have thought he was world class. I think he's got world class performances and seasons in him, like last season. But it's just too inconsistent for me. If he can get some consistency in his game, he will be on level with the Mbappes that everybody seems to think he is when he scores 30 goals in the season. You got to be consistent. The best players in the world do it over the number of years. That's why we all speak about Ronaldo and Messi. Like, that level of consistency and quality every single year. You can't just have one good season, get a new contract, and then just take a couple of seasons off. That's not the way it works, you know. And sometimes you've got to be honest with yourself and take a little bit of criticism, but don't take it as a negative and think, well, I'll show you. Take it as a positive and think, do you know what? I can work harder here, man. Like, be the best version you can be, like, not just as a footballer, as a human being. Live right off the field. I know he's had a bit of on and off with his partner, which will contribute to the guy's mental state and performances and stuff. Like, don't be fooled. It does. They're human beings. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think Darragh nailed it. So I haven't talked too much about his footballing ability. I just want to see him get his head down and stop all the, I'm going to show you, I'm going to prove you wrong. No, you don't have to prove anyone wrong. Prove yourself right. You know what I mean? And I think that's the big thing for, and the fan base love him, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, he gets away with a lot. The fan base love him. Like, just get your head down, play football. If he turns it on for the rest of the season, and the likes of Casemiro, the likes of Martinez, they can stay fit and we can get a consistent starting 11 every week, and he starts linking with Højlund, Garnacho. I think that front three is really nice, and that's something to build on, you know?
No, I totally agree. That kind of message you're talking about, but looking at yourself beforehand, is exactly the message I conveyed to the mighty Tipton Town after our defeat at the weekend, that we didn't look at ourselves properly and play properly. So there'll be a different result for the mighty Tipton Town this weekend. So watch out for our results. Darragh, Mark, great friend of the show, has posed this particular question. I've got a question from Jarvis for you straight after Jamie, if I may, on a different subject. But again, great questions. Darragh, what's your thoughts on this? So Mark's talking about the balance between the midfield three of Bruno, Casemiro and Mainoos. He feels like those guys facilitate each other brilliantly in a positive way. And when they play together more, we're likely to get better results. What's your thoughts on that one?
I'll be straight on to answer the question from Mark. I think I mentioned it last time we were on the podcast together a couple of weeks back there, Stu. I think I said when Casemiro comes back, if you put himself and Mainoos in the double pivot where Casemiro and Eriksen were last season, that's the best thing you're going to get. Because, like, I looked the way it was, Bruno was kind of a bit more free flowing. He was back up, though he was still dropping back and showing his defensive work rate, but he was back up forward. He was in a free role. He was spraying past. No, he didn't have the greatest game last night. We can all admit that. But it's very well put there that Mark said they all facilitate each other. It's a very balanced midfield. Honestly, this is the kind of midfield I was kind of hoping with the start of the season when I saw Casemiro, Bruno, and Mount being paired together as a 3-man midfield. But seeing an 18-year-old fill in where it's a double pivot role, and there was times where he dropped very deep as Casemiro, and then there was times he was just as advanced. Like, he was very brilliant in that number 8 role, kind of facilitating that number 8 role, because he was kind of a 6/8 in some parts last night, and it was actually very interesting to see. I like to look at that midfield going forward. I want to see more of it, and I think everyone looks at it and says, I want to see that now.
Well, I think it's hopefully a midfield we'll see on Sunday. For me, Mainoos, and we'll talk about it, Jamie, because I want to get your thoughts on Mainoos anyway, because I've not had a chance to talk to you about him. He has a poise and a kind of stature that is worrying as an 18-year-old. I think it's absolutely terrific. It's great to see. Jamie, I want to pose this question to you because Jarvis, another friend of the show. Thanks very much, Mark, for that question, and Jarvis. Please get your questions in. There's loads of you in the comments, which is great. A good number of you watching as well. Please hit that like and subscribe. The way that the new YouTube algorithm is written, it helps us grow and it helps you get notified as well when we're doing live shows. If you want to see more real good knowledgeable people like Jamie and Darragh, there's only a handful of channels now available where you don't have to listen to nonsense, and we know who those nonsense channels are. So this is the place to go, and one or two other channels as well. Jamie, question: put yourself in the shoes of Ahmed or Anthony sitting on the bench while somebody who's recently prioritised partying hard and gets the starting spot. How do you feel it would do for your confidence? Would it boost or lower your morale? Great question, that.
Well, some people might not be aware of this in the channel that in the comments, that don't know me, but as Trevor likes to remind me that I live in Newcastle. So evening, Trevor. I have seen your comments, mate. But yeah, so I paid quite a lot of attention to Ahmad and actually went to watch him play for Sunderland. And he looked like a quality player at that level. I just think it's a case of he's got to bide his time. I think it's a case of the same with Pellistri. I think he's another quality young player. I've got some really good prospects there for the future if we can sort of keep hold of them. They don't decide to go their own way. I would be a bit disappointed. I think you've had a great season at Sunderland. You've come back. You want to get involved with United. You get injured. And then it's a case of you're sort of a bit part player. I think he was unlucky not to play against Newport. I felt a bit sorry for him, to be honest with you. I thought that was the prime game to give him a at least 60, 70 minutes, see what he's got, let him get an understanding with the players around him in a sort of low pressure game. With regards to Anthony, he's another player for me. He's got to look in the mirror a little bit and be a bit honest with himself. I think he's well below par, to be honest with you. I thought he was a lot better, and I'll be honest with you. I thought he was a lot better than he is. I even watched him last night when he's just on the edge of the box and he just will not pull the trigger. And I'm like, just shoot sometimes. Like I always say to my young players, you'll know that I coached you as well as yourself. Like, always say to them, if you don't shoot, you don't score. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like my biggest one-liner. If I could only ever tell my team one thing before a game, it's shoot. Like, literally, you see the goal, you shoot, and I feel like Anthony is he's a clever little player, and but he's a very hot and cold. He'll have one good game every 6 or 7, so I don't feel like he's justified that position at the moment. But if you're looking at the bigger picture, that's based on performances, them two players. Ahmad different because he hasn't had the chance. Regarding the comment about how would you feel if someone's been out clubbing, yeah, I think you would feel hard done by. I think, like I said earlier, they're human beings, ain't they? We've all been playing in football teams and someone's, don't like to use bad language, but took the piss and then they've come back in and you've been grafting at training for a couple of weeks and they've not been turning up. And and then they come on the Saturday and they get a game. I think we've all sat on the bench thinking, wait a minute, like what's going on here then? Like, is he playing better than me at the moment? No. Is he turning up for training? No. His attitude right? No. I think we've all been there. Like, let's be honest. If you guys have played football, which I presume you probably have, I think we've all done that. We've all turned up on a Saturday thinking, well, I'm a banker for that position, and then you get dropped and you're like, wait a minute, like. So I think that you can't help but feel hard done by for Anthony and Ahmad because of the Rashford thing. But I think Anthony's probably got a little bit more of a case than Ahmad because he's kind of been that starting focal point. But I think the problem for them is Garnacho's been a phenomenal player all season.
Yeah.
So he's the type of player which I don't like about Ten Hag, to be honest with you. And you'll be big on this as well, Stu, because I know you're very I know you love talking about positions in particular and stuff. But he's shoehorning Garnacho at the moment. Like, he's kind of just putting him where he wants him. He's not really a right-sided player, is he?
No.
But it's like if you don't drop Rashford off the left, you kind of got to play Garnacho on the right. But there's a lot of creativity in that three. And as I say, I come back earlier with Luke Shaw comment that I made. You got to build bonds on the pitch, and I like that front three: Rashford, Garnacho, and Højlund. I think they all bring a little bit to the table what the other one doesn't have, and I quite like that. I think you've got to have a bit of different, but I would like to see Ahmad given a go, but I think he has to be patient. With Anthony, I think he needs to be on the bench at the moment, and he needs to make more of an impact when he gets his opportunity as well. But it's a patience game. They're both very young players, and people don't talk about that enough either.
No, it's true. I mean, just for the record, I'm a complete pain in the arse if ever I get dropped. So the gaffer won't do it because he won't deal with me. I got dropped on a tour in Portugal for the first game a couple of years ago now. And so I paused the gaffer over. I said, what the fuck's going on? He says, he started stuttering. I said, what's going on? I played all season and we're out on tour. Why not? Well, I just thought for this. So I said, all right, then I stormed off like a petulant child does, And he says, everyone in for the team photo. And it was so hot, I was wearing shades and I refused to take them off because I was that pissed with him. An absolute pathetic little baby. But I got in match 2 and we won got all the way to the final. He didn't take me out again. But sometimes you got to stand your ground. I respect my manager, period. He's up here, but sometimes you got to stand your ground. He come up to me at the end of the tournament. He said, I should have picked you in the first game. It's too late, isn't it? We lost the first game 2-0. So it's too late, isn't it? But he did turn around and he says, I knew what I was going to get with you. And he said, I didn't really want to tell you. But I said, well, that's life, isn't it? Guys, you're not going to believe this. We're half an hour into the show already.
You wouldn't think it.
We haven't even touched on KB Mainoos, and we haven't even touched on what's happening. Everyone in the comments, some absolutely great questions coming in at the minute, which is absolutely brilliant. And I do want to touch on the questions, so I kind of loathe to from them at the moment.
I'm happy to work with it.
Yeah, so we've got another question in from Mark. Darragh, have a look at this. It says, guys, do you think the situation from last 9 months with the accusations, what's happened with his game, throwing him off his mental focus, etc., he says he feels like fans need to show him some support rather than criticism. I think that's what you were suggesting, isn't it? Both of you, actually, Jamie in particular, and you, Darragh. So, yeah, I'll let Darragh answer this one, Jamie, and then we'll see what else comes in.
Yeah, no worries, mate.
I suppose when you think of the question, really, has it hampered his game? Like, I don't think it has. And I'll be straight in saying, because
sorry, he's referring to Anthony. Apologies.
Oh no, I was going to say
referring to Anthony. So
I was going to say,
you got me off.
No, you're okay. I was assuming it was about Anthony, but I was like you look at the way he he started great in Manchester United, 3 goals in 3 games, and albeit he didn't do a whole pile in each of those games he scored, but he still scored. So the way I look at it, he's not been consistent enough to say that it will hamper his performance or mental focus. No, it seems like anytime he played since he came back after the accusations, that he still had the nitty gritty and he still had the fight in him, but it just wasn't the consistency.
Mm.
So I can't sit here and say, oh, he's had this going on. No, I will firmly believe in the end of that question that we should be giving him support, because while we had a certain individual who's now gone to Spain, I'm not going to mention his name, but we all know who we're talking about.
Yes.
While we had him lounging around and for whatever reason still being paid by the club despite being suspended, I still firmly believe, like, I look at what we know about each case. He was definitely out there as, I'm not going to say the word. Anthony, you look at the case and you're there like, there is more hearsay, and I'm not trying to say one story is right, one story is wrong. But I'm just looking at him there like, Anthony actually had a case that he could get, I won't say get away with it, but that he could be proven innocent. I just look at the other scenario and I'm there like, no, sorry, you're done. Where Anthony, fair enough, he wanted to play football. He wants to come back and actually do something with himself.
Mm.
Is Darragh Irish because he's talking French?
I know. Trev's, he's a good lad.
It's not convenient that Ireland are playing France in the rugby right now as well. So.
if he's giving you stick, Darragh, it's because he loves you, mate.
Well, that's good to know. But no, look, to finish off the question, I don't think we can justify saying that the accusations that hampered Anthony actually hampered his performances, because the performances up to the point of his accusations coming about weren't great anyway. I think the last time he scored was the time the accusations were dated, i.e. against Bournemouth. But even at that, it's just not consistent enough to say that the accusations could have hampered his performance, really.
Yeah, I mean, Jamie will know this. For me, as a coach, Anthony's lost any kind of thought process on what he can and can't do on a football pitch. It's terrible, really, because there's been numerous times this season where he squared up a fullback. It was only about 3 yards off this fullback, 2 yards at times, and he's doing this stupid step over with his left foot to try and, push the fullback one way so he can go around him the other way. I just look at him and think, there's a basic technique that anyone could do with even half an ounce of brain, and that is to push your right leg forward and trap it against his right foot, roll the ball with his left foot, which is where he is, and you're around him, because the fullback's not going anywhere, and you get those 2 yards that you require in professional elite football to do something. I look at it sometimes, I think, why aren't you doing that? I mean, that's as basic as it gets. Jamie knows as a coach, you look at these players who've got an abundance of talent, and you want to strangle him on times because they're not listening to you. And I've always said, by the way, Darragh, there's two types of footballers. There's people who think they know best, i.e. Anthony's camp, or there's people who really want to learn and they want to listen, and they'll drink in any type of information you can give them. Because and I know as a fullback, by the way, and as a centre half, if somebody squares me up, I am going to stand there, but I'm not going to be rigid. I'm going to have my body as light as I possibly can, so I can dart left or I can dart right, or I can even step forward right or step forward left. So I'm going to cut every inch of grass that my attacker's got, and I'm going to push him as far as I can down that line, and then he's got to do something. He's got to beat me somehow. Anthony just stands there. So as a fullback, you're loving it. Yeah, loving it. It's winds me up. He does, absolutely winds me up. Jamie, we've got to bring in Mainoos before we go on to West Ham. Look, mate, I could absolutely wax lyrical about it, and I think Julio asked a question. Let me see if I can quickly find it. Yes, in answer to your question, Julio, obviously I've coached him because I am a generational talent. I think it's a great question, and he's right. And I've seen loads of stuff with Mainoos that I absolutely adore, and Jamie knows me from old Darragh. I don't wax lyrical about any football. If somebody mentions world class to me, he's a world class player, Jamie will tell you this, whatever, not interested. It means nothing to me. It means absolutely zero to me, world class. There's something about this kid, Jamie. There's something about this kid that is making me open my eyes and absolutely love. And I'm glad it's only a YouTube channel that Manchester United and he doesn't watch, because I'm going to go and compare him to, not compare, but he gives me that same aura as original Ronaldo. When Ronaldo was that age, his physique, his presence, his ability to run with the ball in tight spaces, his strength, his vision. I mean, that is praise beyond praise. It really is. But I couldn't think of anything else or anyone else that I've raised my eyes to as much as I have with Maino. I'll hand it to you, Jamie, because I could go on forever about the kid. I think he's phenomenal. I really do.
Yeah, I think I was talking about him in work today, to be honest with you. I think he's got everything he needs to be a top class player. Like, if he can keep a level head and don't get too caught up in the superstar label that he's going to get, I think if he can keep his head focused on football, he could be a future Man United captain. I really do believe that. I think when he physically matures and he grows in his body, he's going to be big and strong. He's got fantastic attributes already for the boy. I love his positional play. I think it's such an important role for to be able to understand your spatial awareness in the midfield when receiving the ball and when out of possession. I love that aspect of coaching from a young player perspective, because they just don't understand it. And he's a prime example of, actually, sometimes you don't need to do everything. You just need to do the right things to your role. I always think of a defensive midfielder, and this is just my take on it. I get people number them differently. Darragh did it earlier. But I always think of a midfielder as a 4. Like a defensive-minded midfielder.
Yes.
But I think he's got a 4, a 6, and an 8 in one.
Yes.
Like, he's that intelligent. He can run with the ball. He's very tricky. Like we've seen last night, he flicked the ball through the legs. Had the composure of that finish last night. I could do a whole show on it. Yeah. He knew exactly what he was doing. There was no power in it. It was just a little guide to the back stick. It reminded me of a prime Henry when he cuts in and just floats it into the bottom corner. And I didn't appreciate the goal until after the game, because I just went nuts when it went in.
I don't think anybody saw the goal.
I didn't even, honestly, I was shouting my head off in my street. Honestly, I think the neighbours in the street would have heard me.
And even Jamie, might be just saying there as well, I shared the actual video from TNT Sports this morning of the goal, and even one of my brother's friends, who was a big United fan like myself, he actually made the valid point. The nutmeg beforehand just makes it that a little bit better.
Just so cute, weren't it? Like, just a little flick through the legs, and then to have the composure to pick the ball up, go an extra few yards, and just see the goalkeeper and just put it into the corner like that. And then do you know what I loved about him as well? And I love this about footballers, and I always encourage it with my young players as well. Like, I love a bit of arrogance.
Yeah.
Like, I love it. You know, when you've got that quality and you know that you're quality as well. I love it, you know, and see that little, like, you just stood in front of the crowd as if to say, look at me. Like, I love that. Like, I don't think it's encouraged enough. You know, it's like, if you've got a quality talent there, be a bit arrogant. That's what I like about Jude Bellingham when he goes to the fans and celebrates right in front of them as if to say, look at me, I'm the star of this show. You know, and we've got another player like that. And you just, from an England perspective, like, what a fantastic player coming through. Do you know what I mean? Like, but
100%.
He's got it all. And the biggest compliment I can give him is, like, he's like multiple roles. As I say, I love when people say, like, oh, it's a 6, an 8, a 10. Like, I love that.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I always think, like, you don't speak about a 4 like a Makelele, you know? He's not that type of player. He's not as disciplined as that. But that spatial awareness to receive the ball and understand you've got 4 guys around you, but you just need that bit of calm. And, like, you honestly can't even teach that. You've either got that at that level or not. Like, you don't learn to be calm in trouble. You know, you've either got it or you ain't at any level of football. And he's got it all. And, like, we've got, I honestly believe, like, He's another generational talent, and I don't like using that word because we
No.
fling that around too easy. If a player has a good 6 months, he's a generational talent. But I genuinely believe this boy could have a special career. But it's all about his off the field life. How many Man United players have had that ability? The Yanazais, the Rashfords to a certain
Just the
extent, the
point Jarvis was
Sanchos.
about. Yeah, exactly the same
Yeah.
point Jarvis has just made. Do you know, Jamie? You're absolutely right, and nobody really saw how that goal came about. If you watched his drop off to, I think it was Forson, and then he pushed it back to him. Now the real killer was once he megged the guy, it was his little just drag of his arm. Did you see it when he pushed it through? He went round him. He just put his arm across him and he stopped it. Gained in that 3 yards that he needed to set himself and whip the ball in. Phenomenal. Gets missed all the time.
Did you see how mature he was in his interview as well? Like for an 18-year-old boy, like he's so mature, and I love the fact that he was like, "Do you know what? I can't even like think properly at the moment. Like you're gonna have to give me a minute." Like I just love that because that's just human being. That's forget the money, forget the ego, the Premier League player. It's a humble kid that's just like, do you know what? I've just scored the winner for my home like club, like my boyhood club. Like we can only dream of that moment. You know, we'll never get that moment, unfortunately, to score for Man United. But I think I'd stand there and start crying, to be fair. But it's like they're the big moments, man. Like, and at 18, if he's delivering like that, like he's got a massive future ahead of him. And I think we just need to appreciate him and don't. If he has a bad game or two, don't be like, maybe he's not as good as we think he is. Like, let the kid grow, man. He's 18 years old. It's the same with Garnacho. It's the same with the other younger players. Like, let them grow, man. They have to have bad games, and that's okay, you know. Like coming through.
Mark, I was just
sorry.
Mark has pointed out that Dan Gore, and I totally agree with him. I think Dan Gore is going to be a hell of a player. But just going back to that goal. And you're absolutely right. The lack of appreciation to it. But my trouble is, Jamie, like you, I see it from a coach's viewpoint as well. And Darragh knows what I'm like now. We'll be talking about certain things, and then Darragh will look at me and say, "Why are you talking about that? Why are you talking about attitude?" And I just see it from that point of view. And
and I completely understand it.
Once he flicked it,
at the start, I didn't
looking
understand
to
it.
see
Now
what
I
he was
do.
doing. I was looking to see what he was doing, and that. He didn't even touch the play. It was just that little, I'm going to stop you coming. I'm going to stop you getting back at me. It's absolutely brilliant. That's sense that people don't always do. Somebody was asking me about Højlund the other day. Why is Højlund always late into the box? I said, because he hasn't been able to calculate the speed differential between Rashford and Garnacho or Garnacho and Anthony. So, and to get around that, I'm just making an explanation about how you get around that. And you do a 10, 20-yard sprint between the three, and then you make your mental calculations and say, well, look, as soon as Garnacho's got the ball, you should be 2 yards ahead of him because he's going to be 2 yards ahead of you by the time he's in crossing position. So you're there, ready for the ball, things of that nature. And that's how I view football, you see, Jamie. I'm looking at everything. And we always have this chat, and everybody will talk about it, and I'll come in with this completely different thing that I see. And it's because I look at it from a coach's point of view. I love football that much. I look at it from as many different angles as I can, and that's how I do it. And that was my thing about the Mainoos goal. I was looking at how he created that space, what made him do it. Because if you remember the actual build-up, Wolves must have had about 4 or 5 players in that vicinity from the throw-in to by the time that it left Maino's foot. Which, by the way, was a wonderful, wonderful strike. Wonderful.
If I could make one final point on this, I'll make 2 points. The fact that England now, as an Irishman, I'm saying this, the fact that Mainoos, Rice, and Bellingham is a future 3-man midfield for England. I'm sorry, if you don't win the Euros or a World Cup with that midfield, there is actually something wrong. Whatever about the Scholes, Gerrard, Lampard debate, you're going to have 3 class midfielders on your hands. It's a shame Mainoos doesn't have any Irish relatives, but anyway. But finally, like as you made the point there about how much space he created, I think I didn't even think of how much space he created. I was more thinking how much space he was afforded because of the fact that, as you made the point there, he brushed the arm up. But was it Craig Dawson or Kilman was still standing in front of him as he took the shot? And they're like, look how much space was afforded to Mainoos over Kilman or Dawson, whichever was standing in front of him. There was, you made the point there, between himself and Forson making the 1-2 passing, and then Mainoos makes him, takes, like, it literally just opens up that space. It's like the Red Sea just parted. Yeah. And literally, you just see how much space he was afforded, and he said, screw it, I'm going to whip it.
It's his thought process as well. He didn't actually, when he megged him, he didn't actually follow the trajectory of where he should go. He slightly curved his run, very slightly, and then he was in. So it was almost like that, and he was in. Wonderful goal. Absolutely wonderful goal. Guys, we're 46 minutes in. I said to the lads, it'll be 45 minutes, so apologies, lads.
Because I'm back, Stu, that's why. I can talk the head off of anything.
We're talking proper
especially football.
Yeah, we're talking proper football here, guys. Right, let's look ahead to West Ham. Another difficult game, because the thing about West Ham is you don't know what you're going to get. I haven't particularly travelled that well, have they? But, you know, I wouldn't put it past Moyes to come up and try and play this low block that he thinks we can't break down and try and block us in. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a quick 2 minutes from each of you about how you think West Ham will play, what we should do, and then we'll pick the 11, and then we'll wrap up the show. So Darragh, start with you, pal.
Honestly, I'll be straight honest. I don't watch West Ham enough to know how they're going to set up. I suppose the thing with Moyes is that you look back to his time at Everton, he kind of set up depending on the team. So, like, you were making the point there, he could play a low block, he could play, I think the odd time he actually plays a high press, so you don't know what you're going to get with him. So, honestly, I don't watch West Ham enough to say I know what way they're going to be tactics-wise. But you just look at the way that they've kind of gotten hot and cold themselves recently, because while Jared Bowen still does a job, like, I still fear for, like, as comfortable as that three-man midfield was last night against Wolves, there's just something about the West Ham midfield with Ward-Prowse since he came in. It's just been a phenomenal job. Like, I said when they bought him off Southampton, I'm not saying we should have bought him, but at the same time, that was a fantastic buy, because people would say, oh, he's only a set-piece taker. No, fair enough, the stats will show he's a set-piece taker. But if you do watch him the odd time, you just do see a good quality about Ward-Prowse. Nothing to Man United standard that I could say, oh, we should have gone and bought him, but he is of a good quality that he is deserving of playing for someone like West Ham. No, that's not a slight on Southampton in the slightest, but it's more, you knew he was capable of playing for the better team, so it was just about proving it, and I don't think there's any doubts about Ward-Prowse's ability.
Agreed.
But, like, well, if Bowen's on form, we do have to be worried, because, like, fair enough, Luke Shaw's back, and it's good to have him back. If Bowen takes, like, the way you look at I suppose if you look at the way that they broke us down at the London Stadium,
yeah,
because I think we made the I think it was yourself and myself were making the point. You said how they moved, was it that they moved Bowen into the centre and then Kudos out wide. If they do that, like, if the boys haven't copped that from the last game and they do that again, we might be up shit's creek without paddles, and call a spade. But it all depends on what goes on.
Yeah, I think we've got better personnel on the pitch to be able to play Sunday, so I think it should be different. Jamie, Darragh's right about Ward-Prowse. If I'm
intelligent player,
yeah, if I'm Martinez, if I'm Varane, if I'm Casemiro, I'm doing my utmost best to make sure that we're not giving any stupid free kicks 20, 25 yards out, because that guy is just going to put it. But yeah, just give us your thoughts about Ward-Prowse, and then we're going to go and pick another and have a bit of fun with that.
Yeah, he's a very intelligent player. I think he bought David Beckham's right foot off of him when he retired. But he's a technical player, ain't he? I think he's a prime example of, like, if you want an intelligent technically good player that's a set piece specialist. He ticks all the boxes, doesn't he? He's I quite like this loyalty to Southampton. I think that's a bit underrated in football. He kind of had no choice but to leave, did he? But it's a case of I like him a lot. I get what Darragh was saying, that he's probably not Man United quality, but do you know what? I don't really buy into it, man. I'm like you, Stu. I look at football for what it is, and I try to not overanalyze it. I'm not one of these guys that needs a world-class signing in every position. It doesn't exist. You need players that fit your system.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Ten Hag struggles with at United. He's not got the type of players to play his Ajax football. And that's my only criticism with him. And players like Ward-Prowse would be great in a Ten Hag team. He likes to keep the ball. He's very similar to Eriksen. I think Eriksen's a better player than him. Probably not anymore because he's a bit on the older side. But that a young Eriksen was a really intelligent player. I remember watching him for Tottenham thinking this guy's a quality player. And Ward-Prowse fits that bill. And you made a really good point earlier with Anthony as well. And like you got to play players in the right positions for the team, and you got to approach the transfer market in the future, hopefully with Ineos, not looking for the big names, thinking, right, what profile of player do we want in this left centre back or left back or centre middle striker, wherever, and identifying players that have got the roles. I always say you don't need to be a pacey winger all the time. You might need a winger that can cross. If you've got a target man, there's no point having a pacey winger that can't cross, is there?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's understanding football on a level of actually player profiling players for certain positions. If you want to play possession-based football, you need possession-based players. You know, and it's very simple. And Ward-Prowse is a very good player for Moyes because he brings a little bit to the table that they don't have. But they've got some fantastic players. Kudus is a fantastic player. I would swap Kudus for Anthony tomorrow.
Yeah,
anyone would.
Tomorrow. He's just a better player. And I really like Bowen as well. There's a lot of players that West Ham have. I like Cresswell. I think he's a fantastic left back because he's not good at absolutely everything from a footballer, but he's got a wand of a left foot. And he can cross the ball from deep. He can cross the ball from the touchline. He's a really good, intelligent player. They've got David Moyes has built a very good team there that's hard to break down, but he has them individual bits of quality, like the Paquetas, the Kuduses, the Prouses. He's got that little bit of magic that you've got to have in the squad, but he's also got a fantastic base to build from. And I always say, if you're hard to beat, you'll always find a way to score goals. Don't lose, not necessarily always win, just don't lose. Yeah, and I think that's a big thing. I literally remember saying that to my boys when I first took over coaching. I've been doing it for nearly 3 years now. I says, look, we've got to get a foundation here of, this is under 14s, by the way, so this is probably pretty deep for them. They were looking at me like, what's this guy on about? But I come in and I said to him, look, we're not going to lose games. We might not win games, but we're not going to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've done all right, to be fair. But that's a mindset. But you've got to have them players that can win the games, and that's how you nick them little 1-0 sometimes. You know, with that little bit of quality, but you've got to have foundations. Football's all about foundations. And do you know what it is? We can debate lots of stuff on here. You love chatting positional play, Stu. I know you well, you know. But it's basic, isn't it? It's very basic. Your foundations as a coach or a manager or a player or whatever, do what you're good at, man. And particularly recruitment so big for Man United in this summer anyway. Buy the right players, man, for the game plan. Whether it's Ten Hag, whether it's whoever is in charge. Buy the players that fit the system, man. Don't go for the names. Go out and buy the right players. And then your recruitment becomes better and you become a better team. It's very simple.
No, that's it. That's it for me. Yeah. You're absolutely right. We've had this conversation. I remember a couple of years ago we were on a show and I got ridiculed for somebody. I said, well, let's get Conor Cody, and I made my explanation as to why you should.
I remember I was thinking about that earlier.
And then all of a sudden, people that to me is just people who don't get football. You don't understand football. there's a reason behind it. So, guys, we're almost up to the hour. We've got 5 minutes to go. So, starting with Darragh, pick your 11, and then we'll go around to Jamie, and then we'll wrap it up. It's been a great show, by the way. Thanks for everybody in the comments. You've been absolutely brilliant tonight. Thanks to everybody that's watching. Yes, so over to you, Darragh.
I think I'm in my age. If I was the manager, going off of what I know from what West Ham could produce, and also what we saw last night, I'm still on, as everyone probably knows at this rate, they're still on defense about Onana. Part of me wants to throw Bayern into the deep end. Yeah. That's just me. I'm there I don't care if it's West Ham, just put the man in the deep end. Yes, Trevor, all Frenchmen. Let's go. But no, honestly, I'm there the way I see it, it'll probably be Onana, but I would like to see Bayern there. And Reece, I know he's not watching. Well, he might be watching, but he's not making any comments. If Reece was watching tonight, he would know that I have a rose-tinted glasses thing with Diogo Dalot. Now, what he's been consistent lately, I know he would not. I think he'd get torn apart personally against West Ham. So I would rather see Wan-Bissaka. No, I remember seeing. Was there an update on Wan-Bissaka?
He's injured. Yeah, he's got a leg.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say if he wasn't injured, I would actually rather play Wan-Bissaka against West Ham, especially.
Yeah, me too.
More because the way the fucking West Ham will play, they'll dive in terms of positional defensively. Wan-Bissaka would be better against West Ham, but look. We know it's going to be Dalot. We know it's going to be Shaw. There was, of course, the slight worry about Martinez getting his foot iced up the 85th minute on the sideline. But I think he'll be okay, they're saying.
He'll be fine. Yeah. It's just it's a precaution, that is, with ice.
So I'd say don't be surprised if it's the same team as last night, really. And I'm going to be straight saying that on the grounds that you look at the way the team sets up and everything, because of the fact that Wan-Bissaka is injured, he's not going to be available. So I do feel it would probably be the same lineup last night. I would rather Wan-Bissaka instead of Dalot and Bayern instead of Onana. But realistically, it's probably going to be the same 11 as last night.
No, I think I'm in agreement. Jamie, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Darragh, about Onana. I'm just going to keep that for another show, to be fair. But I see Trevor having a dig. Trevor, 2 promotions and 1 league title in 3 years. There you go. I've got the medal if you want me to go and get it.
That's how you do
it. But I'm the same. If it was me tomorrow, Wan-Bissaka would be playing. I like Wan-Bissaka. I'm a big. I appreciate him. I don't think you should have 2 attacking fullbacks. I'm quite big on you go down one side, you be solid and defensive on the other side. It's just the way I see the game. I don't know why, I just do. I like Bissaka. He's solid defensively. He can contribute to the attack, but a defender needs to be able to defend first. And he's a very good defender. And I feel like against Bowen and Kudus, that could probably be a good route. It won't happen. It's going to be Dalot. I don't really have a problem with Dalot. I'm not his biggest fan. I'll be honest. I don't not like him. I quite rate him. I see him play a lot for Porto before we signed him, and I really liked him. He's very attacking. He's got a mistake in him, and I feel like against West Ham, they're going to play balls in behind and try and get Kudus and Bowen at us. And I feel like with Bissaka, you've just got to be a bit solid defensively sometimes. I agree. Hopefully we'll see Varane and Martinez. I wouldn't worry about Martinez having ice on his foot. The guy's Argentinian. They put Martinez on ice to cool ice down, so I wouldn't worry about that.
Brilliant.
And then Luke Shaw, Rashford link up. I hope Rashford can build on that performance. Luke Shaw's our best left back. We don't really have a lot of competition with Malacia being out at the moment. Luke Shaw's a stonewall at left back anyway when he's fit.
Oh, of course.
I hope I want to see Mainoos, Casemiro. Good to see him back as well. We need that bit of physicality, a bit of dirtiness, a bit of Brazilian in that midfield. Not scared to kick someone sometimes. But like you said, should be careful because they've got a free kick specialist. Casemiro loves an edge of the box cruncher.
He does.
But I want to see him and Mainoos. I think Mainoos can learn from playing with Casemiro, whether it's long term. There's rumours Casemiro is going to be leaving, but we'll not get into that. And he's going to start Bruno. Bit disappointed with him last night, I'll be honest with you. But he's another one. There's too much pressure on him, man. Yeah. Rashford, and I want to see the front three. Hopefully, Højlund can get another goal. His movement, his strength would be good against West Ham because they're a physical side. Like, they're well organised. They've got a low block. They're big, tough, strong players. You're going to need a little bit of muscle, and Højlund will give us that. But that little bit of quality in wide areas is where we can win the game, I think, with Garnacho and Rashford. So, yeah, that would be my team. It would be a little bit different from the team that will start, but I'm not going to bore everyone with why I'd pick certain players, but it is what it is. I think we've just got to get out of that mindset of, oh, why is he picking him, and just support the team.
Yeah. Well, if it's any consolation, I think we're actually better suited to a 3-5-2 with the personnel that we've got in a minute. But I made a case of that on MESC Realist TV, and my team got lost by percentage. I've got a reason for it, because I think there are occasions, I think West Ham being one of them. I take your point, by the way, about the attacking wingers, but West Ham, if you matched them up with Rashford and Højlund, I think if you occupied those two centre halves, I think Shaw and Darragh would get a little bit of extra space. You've got Mainoos, Bruno, and Casemiro. They can obviously, if they need to, cover the width of the pitch as well between the three. It would be quite difficult to beat on a 3-5-2, but he'll never play that. That's just my thoughts. I totally agree with you guys. I think he'll play the same team that started against Wolves yesterday. Guys, we've just gone over the hour mark. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, everyone, who's been in the comments. Thank you, Darragh, and thank you, Jamie. Good to see you back. Good to see you as well, Darragh.
Thanks for having me, man.
A couple of weeks. Just a quick reminder, please. Manchester Mind. Thank you again, Richard James, for putting this information up. Do not be afraid to reach out and speak to people. Do not be afraid to reach out to me, Darragh, or Jamie, or anyone else at Devil's Advocate Podcast, or phone that number. It is not a weakness. Remember that. It's not a weakness. As Jamie said, it happens to the best of us. And I've known Jamie a while now, and I didn't even know until today. So there you go. So I think you're remarkable, pal, if I'm being honest, because I didn't know that. So yeah, I do. And Darragh is just Darragh. He's hyperactive. And there's nothing wrong with that either.
You're giving Trevor ammunition, though.
For me, you all know me. I'm just a miserable fucker. that's how it goes. I've had a great time tonight, guys. So thank you ever so much. I hope you've had a great time in the comments. I hope you have a great time if you've been listening or watching. But this has been Devil's Advocate, and I am going to say goodbye from us all. Take care now. All the very best.